All right. Um, Welcome to is now 10 o'clock on Thursday, September 18th. We're going to call this meeting of the Texas State Board of Examiners of Psychologists to order. Ms. Moore, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Give me 1 second. Okay, Mr. Herman Adler. I can't hear anyone.
He's not in.
Okay,
We're hoping he comes in later.
okay, thanks. Dr. Jamie Becker.
Present.
All right. Dr. Jeanette Calhoun.
Absent.
Dr. Mark Cartwright.
Dr. Cartwright has an excused absence. He reached out to us, so I just want to note it for the record.
Dr. Roxana Lambden. Mr. Brian Rentz.
Present.
Dr. Sangeeta Singh.
Present.
Mr. Andoni Zagaris. We do have a quorum.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I'd like to welcome everybody in person and online to this September meeting for the Texas State Board of Examiners of Psychologists. My name is Ryan Bridges, and I'm chairman of the board. At this time, before we get into public comments, I would like to announce and welcome our new board member, Brian Wrench. Brian, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the board. I don't know how many boards you've served on prior, but I can tell you this is some of the best staff that I've ever worked with, and one of the best groups I've ever worked with. So warm welcome to you.
Thank you. I appreciate the welcome. I'm very excited to help and serve Texas in this way. So honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Perfect. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and move into public comment. As a reminder, there's going to be there's a 3-minute timer on public comment, and it will be timed. So please keep your comments to that 3 minutes. Ms. Moore, do we have anybody online right now? I think I see it.
Yes, we do have one hand raised.
Okay.
Carol Gotruce. 1 second. Carol.
Hi, Ms. Moore.
There you are. Hi, how are you? Good morning.
Hello, thank you. And good morning, Chair Bridges and board members. My name is Dr. Carol Grothues. I'm a licensed psychologist and chair of TPA's BHEC Monitoring Committee, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and TPA today regarding the proposed changes replacing the LSSP with school psychologists. We understand and accept the confusion regarding the LSSP and did not challenge House Bill 2598 that would statutorily change the LSSP to school psychologists. We believe the intent of the House Bill 2598 was threefold. First, to clear up existing and avoid further public confusion regarding the LSSP title by replacing it with school psychologists. Second, to bring Texas in line with the national standard of using the title school psychologist. And third, to support TSBP's adoption of the use of the school psychologist title. However, the use of the title licensed school psychologist, which is listed on the website and proposed in today's rule changes, directly contradicts the legislative intent to achieve clarity of role and uniformity with other states. As Texas is only one of 2 states that regulate school psychologists outside of the education boards, this distinction is even more important. Licensed school psychologist is not the nationally accepted title and creates significant confusion with the licensed psychologist title under the same regulatory board, which is why the LSSP was created in the first place. The licensed school psychologist title was not included in House Bill 2598 and only seems to have evolved from this agency's pattern of identifying each licensee as a licensed professional. In fact, the bill struck through licensed specialist in school psychology and replaced it with school psychologist. It would have been extremely straightforward to just keep the license term already in place if that was indeed the intention. But the national title use is school psychologist, not LSP or licensed school psychologist. While it may seem odd to omit the license term given the typical use of the title in this agency, not all professions use this title, and they're licensed physical therapists, nurse practitioners, physician assistants. We know what a physical therapist is, and we know what a school psychologist is. We do not have the same framework for licensed school psychologists, just like we do not have licensed clinical psychologists or licensed counseling psychologists. TPA urges you to stay consistent with the intent of the bill and the school psychologist title used across the country. We appreciate your history choosing words and titles in your regulatory role carefully and thoughtfully. Please change your proposed title and do not add additional confusion that this bill intended to resolve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, or Dr. Grothuse. Looks like we have one other hand raised.
Yes, Chu Hai Cha.
Hi, my name is Chu-Hee Cha, and I'm a licensed psychologist in private practice in Texas. And I recently learned about the board's consideration of an alternative licensure exam for psychologists in Texas. And I would like to give some initial thoughts and reactions regarding this matter, knowing that I only speak for myself, but I suspect I'm not alone in the way I feel and think about this issue. One of the most valuable aspects of being licensed in the state of Texas is to have access to clients from all over the country who are covered under the PsyPact credential, which allows us to treat people via telehealth in up to 44 different states now. I believe that this is one of the reasons my family moved to the state of Texas. We're actually originally from California, and I saw this as an opportunity to build a very lucrative practice in Texas that not only serves the community of Texas, but other people in the very specific demographic I work with in other PsyPact covered states. If we pursue an alternative licensure exam that jeopardizes our participation in PsyPact, I really worry that economically speaking, the value of a license in Texas will be greatly reduced. I'm not sure that a Texas licensure is worth investing in if I don't have the ability to see people under the PsyPact credential. I understand that not all psychologists in private practice are practicing in this way, but I have built a practice around my ability to see people across state lines. And I'm very concerned about what that means for me professionally, what that means for the BIPOC communities I serve through my practice. And I wanted to offer that point of view today so that you have a voice from those of us who are very concerned about this. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Are there any other hands raised?
I know, but we do have one caller. I'll check to see if they want to give public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Just make sure it's one. Caller, would you like to give a public comment?
No, thank you.
Thank
No,
you.
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
perfect.
There are no other hands raised and no other callers.
Okay. And was there any public comment from either of you in the audience? Okay. Okay, perfect. So moving right along, the next agenda item is going to be the demonstration of the online CE management system for licensees, including outreach efforts.
Mhm.
Roll into that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have attending with us today Jason Grubb on the Zoom, a representative from CE Broker. He's been working with us, oh gosh, probably nearly a year now, getting all this set up. And so, Jason, I will turn it over to you to sort of walk through our progress and where we are right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. Can everyone hear me okay? Can everyone see the screen that I have pulled up, this first slide?
Mhm.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, great. Chair Bridges, member of the board and staff. As Robert mentioned, my name is Jason Grubb. I am your client success manager with CE Broker. What that means essentially is that I serve as the primary point of contact for Daryl, Robert, and their staff, and I appreciate you allowing me to join this morning. Today, I'm going to provide you a brief overview of CE Broker, very high level. I'm going to outline our progress so far, including some of our communication efforts to date, and I'll share with you some figures related to adoption thus far, and I'll discuss kind of some forthcoming goals that we're working towards. And then, of course, I'll be available for any questions that you may have at the end. I ran through this a couple times. I think it's going to take probably about 15 minutes or so. Like I mentioned, just a super high level overview of who we are. CE Broker is actually but one product line powered by an organization called Propellus that's focused on really modernizing how licensed professionals, their employers, regulators, y'all obviously, and associations kind of all work together. 20 years ago, we were conceived as a solution for Florida's Department of Health and all 33 of their healthcare related boards. And that was kind of our inception. Since then, we've developed a couple other additional product lines. One is called EverCheck. It's a credentials verification platform. It's used primarily by hospital and health system HR departments to ensure that their healthcare workers and other employees, basically that they're kind of clear to work and be out on the floor any given day. Then lastly, Anywhere, it's a comprehensive employee occupational health monitoring software solution. Like I mentioned, we were founded a little over 20 years ago. Since then, we've expanded to now work with over 300 different regulating entities, and that serves about 5 million licensed professionals nationwide. And uniquely to us is we also work with thousands of educational providers around the country to help encourage professional development and support CE compliance. Texas actually marks the 12th state whose mental and behavioral health licensees we serve. There's a really good chance that your colleagues and peers in some of these other states displayed on the screen here may be familiar with CE Broker and using us. Actually, I live in Colorado now. We're a Florida-based company, but we have a satellite office in Boulder, Colorado, and that's where I'm based. But actually, I'm from Texas. Grew up just north of Austin there in Gerald, Texas, and went to school at Texas State. Not to date myself, but it was Southwest Texas State University when I was there. Lastly here, just as kind of the overview goes, our platform is not just for you, the regulator. Rather, it's built with kind of all three, what we consider the primary stakeholders in mind. This is boards and councils, obviously, the licensee, and educational providers. And they each kind of interact with our platform in their own kind of unique way through their own special kind of portal, but really in concert to help complete their kind of respective piece of the CE lifecycle. So now that we've covered kind of some of those basic foundational pieces, I just wanted to turn our attention to how we've been working with the BHEC and your board specifically. As I know you all are aware, occupational licensure and continuing education requirements, they vary widely from state to state and from board to board. And as such, CE Broker we're not a one size fits all solution. Really kind of by necessity, we customize and configure our platform to your unique regulations. And, thanks to our experience doing this and efficiency in this space, and then also thanks to your very knowledgeable and responsive staff, we're able to go from contract signature in January to a delivered product and open access for your licensees in just 8 months. And I won't detail each milestone here, but what I don't want to get lost is just the numerous meetings and verification conversations we had with your staff to ensure that we fully understand your laws and rules so that our system is reflective of such. It really, truly kind of was a team effort each step of the way. And you'll see here in that last point, your staff announced to the licensed profession on August 13th, essentially saying that, licensees now have access to this new service. But that certainly wasn't the only piece of communication that has been disseminated to your licensed population. So with that, I kind of want to jump into those communication efforts a little more detailed, in a little more detailed way here. Again, as you all know, in informing licensed professionals of new systems, processes, or requirements, it can be a real challenge. And we're really thankful for your staff's thoughtful and proactive approach in laying out a multifaceted and recurring and impactful messaging campaign. You'll see we had a couple pre-launch notices go out that it essentially just informed licensees that this new system is upcoming and it'll be available soon. That messaging also encouraged licensees to participate in one of several co-hosted webinars that we did. Obviously, then there was that population-wide announcement that went out last month, like I previously mentioned. CE broker information is included in your renewal notices. I think those are 75 days out. And the first of those also coincided with that August announcement. And then the webinar specifically, which I kind of touched on a second ago, we held the first of 3 of those webinars on August 27th. It's just been a couple of weeks now. And participation was really strong. I don't know exactly how many psychology board licensees were present, but I do know that we had about 1,000 folks on the Zoom webinar. That's actually the participation limit. And then we had another 2,000 folks viewing the live stream that we pushed to YouTube. And there's a recording of that is available on the board's CE broker overview page. And then we have 2 additional webinars slated for October 29th and December 10th. So folks that weren't able to participate in that initial one, they'll have another opportunity here shortly. And then lastly, of course, my participation at yours and other BHEC board meetings later this month and next, not only for your benefit as members of the board and staff, but obviously for the benefit of those licensees who may be viewing remotely. So, kind of what has been the result of these communication efforts so far. I want to share with you just some kind of initial engagement figures that depict the participation rate of your licensees. So this first slide here, this is for all of the licensees encompassed within the Behavioral Health Executive Council. So since we announced on August 13th, engagement has increased steadily day by day. For all of BHEC, about 14% of the licensed population have already created their CE broker account. And really in just the last month or 5 weeks, whatever the math on that is exactly. For your licensees specifically, about 1,500 psychologists have already claimed their accounts, and that's about 13% or so of your population. So essentially kind of right in line with the norm that we see across all of BHEC. So then kind of looking ahead at the next several months, kind of what are some key milestones that we have coming up? In addition to the future webinars and future board presentations and some ongoing communication efforts that I referenced previously, the next phase of the rollout involves integrating CE broker with your licensing system via a backend API connection to verify CE compliance actually in real time. When I say API connection, that's just essentially, it's just a line of code that allows your system to talk to our system and vice versa. So starting with those licensees renewing in January, their notices, which I believe go out in November, and the renewals thereafter, those reminders will indicate that usage is mandatory of the CE broker system, and they actually won't be able to renew their license unless their CE is uploaded into CE broker's system. And then, obviously beyond that, we are going to continue encouraging educational providers that register with the platform so they can report completions on behalf of their learners. And we're committed to doing additional webinars as needed beyond the 2 that are already scheduled. And then, of course, continuing to provide ongoing licensee support. And just to touch on support, our support center quickly, this is, I think, the last slide that I have for you. But I do want to elaborate a little bit more here. We take great pride in offering a dedicated in-house team of customer support specialists. They're all Propellus employees. They're all based here in the United States. They're trained on your rules and regulations. They're available Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time. Additionally, we have a robust resource library that's kind of full of step-by-step guides and tutorial videos and more in case your licensees ever need it. So that's kind of all that I had prepared for you, essentially highlighting the progress that has taken place to date. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, or even jump over into the platform if you have questions about how licensees can sign up for their account or whatever the case may be.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grubb. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right. I do not see any. So really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time this morning to kind of present on the updates to us.
Certainly. I appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just let me share my screen real quickly for those in attendance. Jason mentioned we have a new webpage for licensees that you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen, the link for renewals in CE, and you can navigate through that page to this page of reporting your continuing education. It has information about CE Broker, about how to activate your account, but then also scrolling down to the Learn More section, it particularly has the YouTube recording of that August 27th webinar that you can watch. During that webinar, as we said, there were 1,000 people in the audience. We answered 200 questions written during that webinar, as well as verbal questions. And so chances are, if you have a question about how to do this, we probably answered it in that webinar. And so you can see the video, you can see the transcript, and you can see the written Q&A that accompanied it if you have any questions. And if that doesn't answer your question, same on this page, you can register for one of the next webinars on October 29th or December 10th. So hopefully we know this rollout will have some bumps and hiccups, but we've given a long runway to get ready for January.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Okay. And
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
Robert, like a down and dirty FAQ on the website. I feel like out of that webinar, there were like 10 questions that came up about 30 times. Things like, do I have to pay for this? Can I track 2 licenses at the same time? The ones that came up literally every 15 minutes.
We are working on updating our FAQs right now, and continuing education is going to be one of the pages. So we will have some more direct on the FAQs. Right now, what we have are the transcripts. But yes, we are mindful of getting the key topics answered.
Okay, were there any other questions or discussion?
Otherwise, Mr. Chair, just recognizing that Board Member Calhoun is with us, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, and also Mr. Adler a few seconds ago as well. So
Yes.
we've got mostly a full house. So, okay, moving right along. Next agenda item is a report from the board chair. So just to reintroduce myself, my name is Ryan Bridges. I'm chairman of the board. As you have probably noticed, this is a little bit of a change from previous meetings, and that I guess I was appointed between the last meeting and this meeting. First and foremost, I want to, I guess, acknowledge and express my appreciation to the work that Chairman Blamowitz did on this board. I realized a couple days ago that tomorrow is actually 7 years since I first joined this board, or when I was first appointed to this board, and worked with Mr. Blamowitz the entire time. And as a public member myself, he was an outstanding influence on me personally and professionally. He left some massive shoes to fill, and I hope that I can fill those shoes. I'm going to do my best to do that. I want to express my appreciation to the board for just all the work that you guys do. Again, going back to as a professional or as a public member, I do not have background in psychology outside of this board, and I have leaned on everybody sitting at this dais for the past 7 years to help point me in the right direction. I've learned a lot from you guys. I still rely heavily on y'all's support. So just want to express my appreciation before we jump into this for the work that all you do and for the work that all of our licensees do. We wouldn't necessarily be here if not for you guys. So we're going to do the best we can to continue the work that we've been doing. And thankfully, Chair Blamowitz is not too far from us now, and that he's chairman of BHEC, so he's been a great partner for us thus far. So that's my short spiel. I'm trying to keep it short and sweet because we do have a lot of agenda items today. I'm gonna pivot into the next item, which is a report from BHEC. Dr. Cartwright is not here. I attended the last meeting. There's nothing really to report from BHEC unless Mr. Spinks wants to weigh in on that. We have a meeting coming up in a couple weeks. But, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we've got a meeting on October the 14th, but nothing of import or significance to report. Standard rulemaking, implementing legislation that was passed during the 89th legislature, but nothing of any significance today.
Perfect. Okay. Well, then I'm going to go right into the report from board administrator and other staff. Ms. Moore?
Hello, everyone. This update on SIPAC. We currently have a little over 1,000 of our Texas licensees with authorizations to practice in the other 42 effective states. Massachusetts and New York have introduced legislation in 2025. And SIPAC has proposed revisions to Rule 4 and 5. And basically those rules are just to clarify authorization applications that are denied, revoked. And so those that want to review those, they are taking written comments up until October 3rd of 2025. Okay, and that's all I have on SIPAC. So the next would be update regarding development of psychology licensure exam. Robert, did you want to do the update on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
jump in there. Obviously, a big topic of interest to the board and the community. Just before I jump into that, though, I did want to acknowledge we have passed the fiscal year, and so in your board packets, you had a bunch of materials about sort of end of year fiscal year things. I just wanted to mention we have grown exponentially as an agency over the last several years, both in licenses, but also in complaints. But not against us, against fellow licensees, unfortunately. But just letting you know, we now have over 6,000 licensed psychologists. That was a growth of about 200 new psychologists this year, which is great. We have 143 more school psychologists than we did at the start of last year, a little over 4,500. And LPAs, y'all have held steady. So you didn't grow any, but you didn't lose any. So that's nothing to be ashamed of. And then we've got a lot. We've resolved more complaints than ever, but we also have more on our plate than ever. So just giving y'all that sort of general heads up on how we're doing. As far as the big exam project, we are pursuing the directive to look at the possibility of creating an exam and designing what that would look like. We have formed a steering committee made up of some of the board members as well as representatives from the Texas psychology community and universities to sort of spearhead that movement. We are engaged in surveying the general psychological community of Texas and the country and Canada. Anybody who wants to weigh in on what could a new exam provide to the community, what it should look like if it were to be created. And so hopefully everyone in the audience has gotten that email with the survey. If you are in the audience and you got the survey email, forward it to your friends, please. If you're a member of an organization, send it to your organization. We want to hear from as many people as possible. To give the board a sort of overview of the benchmarks and goals, our intention is to develop essentially the blueprint for what we want an exam to do, and then go to psychometrists and figure out what can an exam do that, and what would that look like as an exam, and then essentially bring to y'all in the spring a package of decisions for you to make of if we were to hire a company to build an exam, what would we tell them we want it to look like? What is it? What is its goals? What is its assessment goals? What kind of questions do we want asked? And y'all will then decide to move that forward and what you want it to look like. It will then go up to the council to approve it as a project to propose to the legislature. And so a couple of things for the audience and the board to make sure you understand, we are not writing an exam right now. We are well early of that phase. We still need to go back to the legislature and propose to them, if we were to create an exam, here is what it would look like and here's what it would cost. So there's still a decision point for the Texas legislature to decide it wants to affirmatively create the exam. The other thing, per the public commenter earlier, the board has not directed us, and I do not believe the board's desire is to abandon the EPPP. That is continuing to be a recognized test in Texas. It will continue to be an option for people to take, even should Texas create its own exam. And so for anyone who wishes to be a part of another state or SIPACT, that continues to be an option. We will not get kicked out of SIPACT. Having an alternative exam does not violate any rules or any SIPACT laws or anything. So just wanted to highlight that. And otherwise, happy to answer any questions folks have about the project.
Okay. Is there any questions or discussion?
Would your last comments clarify for that psychologist from California what she was worried about?
I hope so, yes, that she will continue to be licensed and be able to practice and be in SIPACT. And our general counsel, Patrick Hyde, is the chair of SIPACT. Texas is an integral part of SIPACT, and we're not leaving.
If I may,
Sorry, go ahead.
well, you go ahead, because I think you were going to address what I was going to say.
I think it's really important, though, for the public of psychologists to understand that we're solving for more than one problem by exploring this exam. And it's not only about psychologists, it's also about master's level practice. And it's about understanding the push around the country for wanting to understand minimum basic competency and what that looks like in knowledge and the practical knowledge and what others may perceive as skills and how to go about doing that. And we're never going to abandon the access pathway through the EPPP because as psychologists, we understand, those of us on the board with PhDs and PsyDs, that is the pathway that is recognized both through PsyPAC and through board certification. And we will not cut off our nose to spite our face, that those are pathways that exist in our standardized education. This is an alternative pathway that needs to be explored. It is not going down the road with no rails on the track. It is an exploration pathway that we are looking to solve in a problem that exists, not solving the problem that doesn't exist. So I think folks need to hear what we're doing and not the problem that they think is going on. And so I just want to point that out. We are never going to close the door on the EPPP. We are simply opening another door to explore whether that solves a problem that we do have in our state.
We can't hear Mr. Adler. Can you turn your mic on?
Is it worth repeating the context of this new approach? It's not coming out of nowhere, obviously. And some people might be saying, if they weren't paying attention before, or if they are new practitioners in the state, whatever. So I think probably you, Robert, would be better to explain that.
Sure, absolutely. And I think what's important, particularly in the context, is this all began, the questioning and the concerns began from the intended implementation by ASPPB, the owners of the EPPP, of a second test, a second skills exam. And I want to make sure everyone's clear. That was what got everyone talking and everyone upset. But that's not the underlying motive of the actions now. Because I understand there are some folks who have written in saying why ASPPB is no longer pursuing a second exam. They're going to have a singular EPPP. Why are you still doing this? It's that in those conversations, as people were voicing their frustrations and examining the effectiveness of the EPPP as a test as it is, legitimate concerns were raised by folks in different demographics and different professional associations about that the EPPP is a good test for what it is designed for, but there are things it is not designed for, and there are populations it is not designed for. And the question became, I think, particularly salient for this board is, are there people that we are excluding because we only have the one option of the EPPP? And that if we had another option, there might be people who could get licensed and provide services to folks. And that if we were starting from the ground up, there might be things you would do differently as an exam. And so that's really the context that led us to here today. Again, the decision to not have a second test by ASPPB, we laud that. That's good. You shouldn't. I think we all agreed that was not the right strategy. But this effort is really a separate concern again, there's the SAT and the ACT. Both exist. Both are valid. They are useful to have. They don't fit. One doesn't fit everyone. So that's the context.
So one comment goes back and address the previous public comment that we heard. And I think temporally, it makes sense for people to remember that for people that already are licensed, nothing will change. not your EPPP score, not our acceptance of it, not your licensing status, not your membership in PsyPact. None of that will change. This, again, is something for people that are coming up and, attempting to be licensed and pass an exam. So just to clarify that.
Thank you, everyone, for the additional.
That's a good question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
For the people who have a concern that this might undermine their existing certification or license, is there going to be any way to track who took which exam and if there's going to be an increase in complaints or performance in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah. If a new test is developed, we will, as part of your licensing application, we track your score. We will know which test you take. From the beginning, everyone has agreed any new test must be rigorous. It must be valid. It must meet all psychological standards of creating tests and assessments. It will follow all of those standards and all of those protocols.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this item? I do see some hands raised in the audience. We're not opening up this topic for public discussion at this time. So appreciate your understanding there. Next item I think we had was the update regarding Walden University practicum.
Yes. Following our last board meeting, we did, per directive of the board, we did reach out to Walden University by letter to inform them how their program graduates are applying for Texas licensure for LPA license and are not meeting that requirement due to lack of practicum. They did respond to us in writing, and we did meet with them on a Zoom call on August the 11th. And we talked with their dean, Dr. Alina Perez, and associate dean, Dr. Scott Friedman. And they informed us that the prior master in clinical psychology program was geared for LPCs and was closed on 2014. Their new master's degree program for clinical psychology was launched in November 2024. They expect to have new graduates from that program in 2026. We did request that Walden put information on their public-facing site regarding, their program requirements as it regards to meeting Texas requirements. They have not done that yet, but internally, on their internal site, they did inform us that students are informed of the state-specific pathways at the time when they are at the admissions for the program. And then they have a foundation course where that's further discussed to the students. And like I said, there is, they do meet with them when they're closer to graduating to discuss the states that their chosen state for licensure, to let them know if they met those requirements. So they have taken some measures to help correct it, but hopefully with this clarification, people can realize, at least be more mindful of when they're submitting their applications, if they're meeting our requirements prior to graduating. And that's all I have. Did you have something, Mr. Robert?
Just one point to add, that old prior master's program, that is the one that we were seeing applicants from, that they should have known that it was only meeting the LPC requirements. The new master's program does have a practicum and is designed to meet our requirements.
So we, in theory, should see this taper going forward. Okay, perfect. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Moore. The next item is going to be reports from committees. I don't know if Ms. Moore, do you?
Yeah, I don't think we have any formal reports from the committees.
Okay.
Yeah, the reports in their folder are just informational reports on the stats and the general enforcement reports that are in your packets.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so next item that we're going to be moving into is the licensing. So these are going to be review and possible action on appeal of license applications. The first one that we have up is Dr. Karen Parsonson. Welcome, Dr. Parsonson. If you wouldn't mind coming up to the mics, please.
And Mr. Chair, if I could try it. I know we gave you the board a lot of materials, and so if you don't mind, I'll just sort of give a little spiel up front of each one.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Hone it in. This is one where really appreciate Dr. Parsonson's for being here and for sticking with us through all this. At the last meeting, her application got kind of lumped in with several applications that did not have practicum and postdoc experience. She does. And really the problem, the reason staff could not grant the license is that her experience is not documented in the way that we expect documentation to work. However, two things that were not expressed at the last board meeting and that we've learned. One is she does have documentation from her professors in the form of letters that this experience did in fact happen. In addition, she has received a license from Tennessee relying on this same documentation. And so this is one where admittedly we as staff couldn't bless this. It is our recommendation to you that you grant her a license.
This was the one at the last meeting. We were hoping that you would be here to speak to us. And we were like, can we just get a little bit of information? And you couldn't be there. And we said, well, can we table it to the next one and see if we can get Dr. Parson in here and just explain it to us? Is that the one? That was the,
Yes.
This was the one, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I remember this.
Dr. Parsonson, we appreciate you being here today. Give you a few minutes to, if you have a statement for us.
Sure. Okay. Can you hear me? Great. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to actually come and speak with you. And I'm really sorry I couldn't be here the last time. Family priorities, unfortunately. And by the way, today I actually delayed my oath ceremony for my American citizenship today because unfortunately it was booked today in Corpus Christi at 10:45 a.m. So hopefully they will grant me the opportunity. As I passed that exam, that was no problem.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very proud. I really appreciate it. Okay, well, and thank you for explaining a little bit about it. I don't know, I gave you a lot of information because I have almost a 40-year career. And I did send through, Ms. Moore has been wonderful with me. I did send through some additional updates, some recent colleagues in terms of their experience with me, and recommendations also from previous colleagues who were actually working with me when I was practicing up in Canada. So how long do I have? Like, I just thought if anybody hadn't read all of the information, I thought that I could quickly go through what my experience has been. Are you all right with that?
Sure. Yeah, please
Okay,
do.
thank you. So historically, I'm going to go way back when because this goes back to 1980s. I did my PhD at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, which basically, if you look at it in US standards, is considered like Ivy League, okay? I actually won the top fellowship, $50,000 during my, it was a federal fellowship because of my research was quite outstanding at the time. My training there was clinical, but I specialized in forensic. And that's where I actually did 2 internships at a maximum security prison, which was the oldest in Canada and has since been closed because it was incredibly decrepit. If anybody knows forensics, I did workshops with Robert Hare, who's a Canadian out of UBC. If anybody is a sex offender specialist, my mentors and my professors were Bill Marshall and Howard Barbary, who are the top of the top historically in terms of that work. My work in forensics has continued for many years ever since then. So I did the 2 internships. One of them was with the sex offender population. One was with a psychiatric in the psychiatric facility in the prison. And like I said, the prison's now closed. I provided for you because I mean I'm age handicapped, so to speak. There's not a lot of digital stuff out there in terms of my history, and so I reached out to the director, current clinical director at Queens, and said, "Hey, can you just find something that shows?" I mean, you can see it on my transcript. I did my 2 internships that were required for my PhD at Queens, and if I might point out, according to the First Street Accord, APA and CPA in terms of accreditation is reciprocal. That I do know. So he was able to find proof, and you can see from my transcript, I did my 2 internships, which were all that were required towards my PhD in psychology at Queens. So before graduating, I was offered a position as an educational psychologist, educational psychometrist, which I began under the supervision of Dr. Jeff Langford, who unfortunately and very sadly has now passed. Dr. Langford actually did supervise me for 4,000 hours, as you can see by the letter that I provided. Unfortunately, because he has passed away, there's no way for me to send him something to fill out for you. But I do want to point out that I also sent you all of the information that I asked my board, my previous board that I was with for 18 years, please send everything you've got on me. And basically you can see there that they did accept that letter. So it may not have been verifiable by you in today's world because he's passed on, but it was verified by my board back towards my licensing back in Alberta. So I was trained in cognitive behavior therapy and behavioral therapies out of Queens. It was very big on that at the time. And then my repertoire increased in working with Dr. Langford because he added to my repertoire some psychodynamic techniques. So it helped me be, more eclectic and able to help a wider number of people with different needs. Okay, so past that, now understand that some of these positions in different Canadian provinces, if you worked for the province or if you worked for like a prison or something like that, you did not need to be licensed. So there was no need for me to be licensed when I was a coordinator of adolescent sexual offender treatment I actually developed an entire treatment program for the province of Saskatchewan that they're still using very successfully. After that, I worked as an early childhood psychologist after my licensure. That was also in Saskatchewan, and then I moved to Alberta, where I stayed for over 20 years, and there I was a director of forensic adolescent outpatient program at a major hospital, Calgary General Hospital. Calgary is a city of 1.5 million people. It's not small. I did all of the court-ordered assessments, started up lots of different types of treatment programs in my capacity there, and I spent decades in the courts as an expert witness at all levels, criminal court, family court. You guys, you have a Supreme Court in Canada, we have a Court of Queen's Bench. So a lot of my statements, the judges just said to me, I can't say it any better, I'm just going to put it right in my judgment, like quoted by me. So past that, and while I was doing this, I got trained in clinical hypnotherapy, which I see as something that's in my tool bag. I like it. It's handy with a lot of people, not necessarily everybody, but I ended up working and became the president of the Canadian Federation of Clinical Hypnosis for the Alberta for a number of years. And at our workshops every year, trained a lot of medical professionals, certified medical professionals, psychiatrists, pediatricians, veterinarians. It was wonderful work. So while I was working at the General Hospital, I had a part-time private practice, and I just got so busy. My practice was one of the busiest in this city at the time, but then I had to retire from it for personal reasons in 2011 with the death of my father. Felt it was ethically the best thing I could possibly do because it was pretty heart-wrenching And I wanted to take care of him. I took him home to take care of him until he passed. And my kids had a hard time with it too. Anyway, so yes, I was an expert witness in the courts despite that for many years. UHV needed someone to come in and help in their forensic psychology graduate program. So I am now an associate professor there. I've been there, this is my 11th year. I've also spent some time as a director of the program. I'm on track for promotion to professor. I guess the best thing I can say about that is when I went into academia, it was perfect for me because I had been in court for so many years going up against other experts, and I thought, I really want to help train the next generation even better. And that's what you'd see with our students at UHV. I mean, you actually end up with many of our students that I am training towards licensure, and I work very hard towards it. I teach them professional ethics. I teach them development, lifespan development. I teach them advanced research methods. I'm very enthusiastic. I get 5 out of 5 for every course I've ever taught there. And they're benefiting from it because they are getting licensed as LPAs and LPCs. So I also do a lot of research, do a lot of writing. Just had a big book published by Routledge. It's now being used as a textbook for graduate ethics training at one of the universities in South Florida. It's in the Library of Congress. And, you know, I'm very involved, I guess I'd say, in my profession as you know, doing peer reviews and all that sort of thing in the profession. But, you know, in all of my teaching, I'm using all of everything that I've learned and everything that I've learned in practice and everything I learned from my supervisors through the years who, I mean, I trusted dearly. And, you know, I always hearken back to what they taught me at the time. I spent a lot of time with them. I asked a lot of questions, and I was very successful in my practice. Even while I've been an academic, I've had a lot of recruiters come after me because of my specializations in forensics and in working with sex offenders. They've come after Washington State, Oregon, Louisiana, New Mexico, Florida, North Carolina, Texas, and Tennessee. Chattanooga they were very interested in my forensic expertise. And the interesting thing is, I actually licensed with them in 2.5 months. They had absolutely no difficulty. Not only was I licensed as a forensic psychologist, I was licensed as a health service provider and as a certified forensic evaluator. Okay. So, you know, I gave them all the same information that I gave you. And in actual fact, they even required more hours of supervision. According to, I went through just to do a comparison. When I looked at the same time frame when I did it, it was 3,750 hours. Tennessee's is 3,800 hours. So anyway, they really want me to come back. I wasn't even living in Tennessee at the time, and they licensed me. This is my home state. It's important to me. I'm 64, going on 65 years old. I would love the opportunity to be able to practice with a license and help out, given how much difficulty there is with finding mental health professionals. I have a lot to give to the state of Texas.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Parsonson. And I'd like to open up the floor for any questions.
Good morning, Dr. Parsonson. I do have a question for you. You mentioned that you gave Tennessee all of the information that you provided this board in your application, correct?
Yes, and actually the only thing they asked for in addition to it was they wanted 3 letters of recommendation, which isn't required in ours. But Texas has actually asked for more because they never asked me to go back to my university and say, hey, can you validate that you did the internships? Because they saw that they were on the transcript. And they never asked anything further about Dr. Langford because they had my entire record, as you do, from my previous board showing that he was validated as a person who had provided me that much supervision.
So I have 2 questions for you. One of them is just as a practitioner, I understand, and I'm sorry to hear that obviously I mean, I think bittersweet being able to care for your father at such a critical time in his life and yours. I think a lot of practitioners might have asked for their license to be placed on an inactive status.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered why it wasn't that you might have considered that option.
Well, I mean, it was one thing me dealing with it, and I would know how to deal with it, but my kids were quite young at the time. And this was their last surviving grandparent. And there were a lot of family issues going on at the same time as this was happening. And I just felt that it was important for me to dedicate my time to making sure that they were okay at that important developmental time of their lives. I made sure that all of my patients were, because I had a practice where I actually had associates. And I was able to oversee transferring patients if necessary to associates if they were open to that. So no one got left aside. I just felt that it was best in the foreseeable future that it was best for me not to continue at that time.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My second question is, I see here a notation on page 4 that says applicant has requested verification, of previous license. Do you know if Tennessee, or if you ever have managed to obtain that your previous license was retired in good standing and active at the time?
When I applied to Tennessee?
Well, I'm just interested if they requested or received, if in essence you would be able to provide that information about your previous license being in good standing and at the time that active at the time that you decided to retire it.
Tennessee didn't specifically request it, but they had, just as you do, the entire transcript of my practice, of my time of practice with my society from 1993 to 2011. And it goes right down to the end that basically says, hey, I'm retiring. And there's no evidence of any complaints in there or whatever. So no, they didn't specifically ask for that.
Okay.
And I can verify that we as staff we've gotten verification of active and good standing in Tennessee and the good standing retirement of the Canadian license.
Gotcha. Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Dr. Parsonson, I apologize for all the rigmarole. I believe you're overqualified.
Oh, thank you.
And I would like to make a motion to the board to grant this individual a license.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you so
Congratulations.
much. I really appreciate this. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we have the application for Dr. Bethany Mink.
And Mr. Chair, Dr. Mink is in the virtual audience. I'll bring her on in just a moment.
Okay.
To give a general, this is one where unfortunately staff does recommend that you are going to probably be required to deny the application. The central issue, really the only issue, is the Dr. Mink has the correct degree, but from an institution that is not regionally accredited and is currently undergoing litigation related to not being accredited, and our statute requires it be regionally accredited. So, but I will bring Dr. Mink on. There we are. And so give Dr. Mink, if you'd like to talk through any issues you have for the board, and particularly if you have any information we don't about the accreditation problem.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me. I've been licensed in California as a psychologist since 2018 with no disciplinary actions. When I got my degree in 2014, the school was approved by the state, which was the state of California at that time allowed that as part of basically what you can do so you can move ahead to take the EPPP and get licensed. Since then, it looks like the state of California has changed their laws. But when I graduated, that was what a lot of people I graduated with did and got licensed. So there's just been some changes since then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can confirm the educational institution, when Dr. Meek was going through it, was pursuing accreditation and had not yet been denied or had the problems, but it was not accredited at that time.
Okay, so to confirm, it never had accreditation. They were in the process. It wasn't like the accreditation got rescinded at some point.
Correct.
Okay.
But she's correct that California law allowed for that process. And so she's done nothing wrong and is the unfortunate victim of the institution did not do what it needed to do. But unfortunately, our statute specifically requires that the institution be regionally accredited. We cannot authorize a license in this case.
Just to expand on that, after reviewing the documents, just for clarification, the university, San Diego University of Integrative Studies, had a provisional accreditation at the initial phase of seeking that process, going through that evaluative process. Unfortunately, after, and I can't remember how many there must have been maybe 4, maybe 5 extensions that were requested by the university for that process to complete it, and unfortunately never happened. So they never actually had full accreditation, as is my understanding.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, give us just a moment.
Yeah.
Patrick and I are legally conferring just to make sure we're giving you all the correct information.
Okay, while they're doing that, is there any other discussion or comments or questions from the board?
Dr. Mink, did you do a pre-doctoral internship?
So the way it works in California, you can do I did a practicum to fulfill the requirements of the school, and I worked as a licensed marriage and family therapist during the program. After the program, I became a registered psychological associate under a psychologist at a very reputable hospital that did my full 3,000 hours under him to become a licensed psychologist. So all of my hours were permitted to be done in a formal internship postdoctorally. I sent in those hours to the board. I have them in front of me as well.
Apologies, we're apparently still. I don't want to interrupt these guys.
Sorry, Mr. Chair and Dr. Mink. We were trying to explore a legal thought of is there a way that we could bend over backwards to make this work, but we just really don't have any grounds to say yes.
I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but the way I see it is there's 2 separate deficiencies with the lack of the regional accreditation, and she doesn't have a pre-doctoral internship. So she's deficient in 2 categories, but is also licensed in California. So we don't have any way around any of the things, right?
So we do have the way around the second deficiency because she's been licensed more than 5 years.
Okay.
The experience requirements, both internship and postdoc, are waived by statute. So statute
Okay.
gives us an out on that one, but not the regional accreditation.
Gotcha.
And we were talking through the idea of could you recognize a provisional accreditation? It's possible, but where an institution like this has failed to be accredited through that provisional process, it would strain the statute to say, well, we can we can count the provisional that you did that did not successfully get accredited. That doesn't quite work.
So then she's got a full license from California.
Mhm.
We,
It-
in all fairness, I mean, there's no reciprocation.
If
Do we
could-
have states that reciprocation applies?
If only Oklahoma, if California would like to enter into reciprocity with us, we would love to have that conversation with them. We have said to everybody, we're open for business if there's a reciprocity agreement. They have not taken us up on it. It is, I guess my advice to Dr. Meek would be because if California were in SIPACT, then she could come in through SIPACT. But it's not. But perhaps there is another state that would allow licensure and is part of SIPACT, and then you could get in through SIPACT to Texas. That would be the best avenue, I think.
So then, California allows people to get an education in non-accredited colleges and then license them? Is that the case here?
Yes, in a way, because they have their own sort of a state exam and accreditation standards. They don't always rely on national accreditation standards because they have their own robust system. And so to the rest of us, yes, it would be not accredited. I don't want to cast dispersions on the institution. They're following California's rules and they have their own system.
So if a person is a victim of circumstances, unfortunate circumstances, there's nothing the board can do to maybe require her to do something.
Unfortunately, no. Y'all have the authority to waive all the requirements that you create, but these are statutory requirements that you do not have the authority to waive.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is I mean, this is a statutory issue, not a rules issue.
The other option that may be available, another pathway, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to get a license through with a state that we share reciprocity with, such as Oklahoma.
Yes.
Would
yeah,
that be a viable pathway?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what Oklahoma's views on a regional accreditation are, but yes, if she held an Oklahoma reciprocity license, then I'm pretty sure.
Yes, but to be reciprocal is your requirements would have to be substantial. You'd have to be substantially similar to, and I don't know that we could enter into a reciprocity agreement with another jurisdiction that did not require regional accreditation at a minimum regional accreditation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, so there's actually.
I'm going to move to deny this application.
Been moved. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Dr. Mink, for being here, and apologies that we don't have any more latitude.
Okay, so the next LP application, Shireen Bregazar. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Corinne, and I do not see Ms. Ragozar on the online list, but if you or your representative here, simply raise your hand. A brief summary for this is essentially a foreign degree issue. Got her degree from Iran. Does have the degree requirements. Really, the rule problem that we as staff couldn't agree to was that her internship was overseen by a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. As she explains in her materials, the distinction doesn't quite exist for those two licenses in Iran. And so this is one, again, where in the future, we will certainly try to resolve as best we can, but we need the board's. This would be a good test case for the board to say, yes, that sort of thing is acceptable.
I have a comment, if I may. In her appeal letter, The applicant stated, quote, "Therefore, I respectfully request one of the following: a waiver of internship supervision requirement." And I'm not in agreement with that myself. But she also states the opportunity to remediate the deficiencies by completing the full 3,500 hours of supervised experience, doctoral internship and postdoc hours combined under a licensed psychologist in the U.S. And again, it's not within a doctoral program, but I'd be okay with that if she's willing to do that, as she stated. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Yep, that's a decision for the board, whether her experience is sufficient at this point or more. She would still have to do the 1 year of postdoc already. And so that's a decision for the board.
I agree. It's essentially a 2-year postdoc is what she'd be asked to do, which is the demonstration that she would be competent and that her education is sufficient, which we don't have any way as a board of assessing, but having her do her hours would be the demonstration of competency. And if she's willing to do that, that demonstrates to me the willingness to demonstrate that she has both the skills and competency to function. If she has demonstrated that she has the education, she needs to demonstrate the skills and the minimum competency.
I agree. I think that's a wonderful option. And particularly since we have not determined in Iran what the difference is in a psychiatrist and psychologist, I think that option would be a good option to go forward with.
Is she here in the audience?
No one has raised her hand, so I don't believe she is present.
If she were, I would have asked her to describe what the supervision was like with the psychiatrist, the kind of things they talked about, and maybe it wouldn't sway the board, but it would be something that would be helpful to know.
I think part of her training was in Spain as well.
That's true.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like she has rigorous training and likely has decent supervision. But even then, the applicability in our settings and in our populations, I think the necessity of retraining and in demonstrating minimal basic competency to practice without supervision, if she is willing to do it, I think it's what we ask for.
This is a question that in other applications that were reviewed by the applications committee is that, whether or not she can find such a situation, does it have to be under an academic institution, to meaning to be able to have that experience, or simply just maybe a job where she's I guess working under a psychologist and just meets criteria through that. Is that kind of what would have to be the case?
So before we explore that, I just want to clarify real quickly. She completed her doctoral degree in Barcelona, and she was supervised by an academician that is a psychology professor, clinical psychology. The skill set, the experience that she's referring to, we're using for her application in Texas. It says as part of her doctoral research, she conducted over 300 clinical interviews and led structured group logotherapy sessions over a period of 3 years. And they targeted international students experiencing moderate level anxiety and depression during the COVID pandemic. The interviews were delivered in 3 structured cycles followed a therapeutic protocol grounded in Viktor Frankl's logotherapy, applying techniques, Socratic dialogue, de-reflection, and paradoxical intention. It is quite narrow in my view. It's not the breadth that I think a regular applicant would have, or another applicant with a doctoral degree. and it wasn't supervised by somebody who does clinical work. It was really subsumed under research. And her work actually was published in two separate academic journals. So I don't think it's the same thing, to be honest with you, and I would take that 3,500 sort of option that she's requesting.
Is that a motion or is there a motion on the floor?
Sure, I move to accept her proposition of undergoing the 3,500 hours of supervision under the supervision of a clinical psychologist.
All right, is there a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Was there an opposed?
No, I was just slow to respond. I'm sorry.
Oh, gotcha. No worries. The motion does pass.
All right. Next, Mr. Chair, is a school psychologist application from Yasiel Basulto. Again, as with others, if Ms. Basulto is in the audience or her representative, please raise your hand. We'll bring you on to discuss. In this one is one that there are the board has the authority to choose to grant the license because all school psychologist requirements are in rule. The staff could not grant the license because the deficiencies in this case are coursework and practicum. The degree that Basulto holds, pull that up again, is a Master's of Science in Education under a school psychologist plan. So, so certainly a degree that is focused in the right area. However, there were some coursework requirements that were not met. In addition, we understood from the applicant that the practicum, the requirement for a practicum experience was waived from their degree because of work experience they had. Now, they are licensed as a school psychologist in New York, I believe, and have been for several years. So we as staff could not, on our own, say this was acceptable, swapping the experience for a practicum and swapping coursework requirements. It's the board's, ultimately the board's decision whether this is appropriate.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I have something for all of us to consider. And so I think for those of us that are practitioners, the distinction, work experience is fairly independent in terms that you cannot guarantee that the actual how those skills are being applied is effective or perhaps even accurate. In terms of how you apply cognitive behavioral therapy, how you apply DBT, all of those things, I think is the how of what a practicum and an internship, a formal structured internship would give you. And work experience, although you are being paid and treating people, is not the same thing. You could be working, but you could be working in not all of the ways in which you ought to be working, if that makes sense. That's my concern, because we don't have anybody who is licensed, anybody who is in the profession saying, yes, this person has learned to apply the tools and the techniques in all of the ways that are ethical, that are accurate, that are effective. That's my concern number one. The second concern that I have with this one for all of us to consider is in her appeal petition letter. On page 2, it says, I'm employed by Presence Learning and I'm eager to provide virtual psychological services to children in Texas, where there's a significant need for qualified bilingual Spanish providers. I'm deeply committed, et cetera, et cetera. My concern, and I would ask her if she were present, is does she plan to move to Texas? I couldn't find any Texas address. Maybe I was not looking in the right places. I did find a New York address. And if it is her intention to practice while still being in New York, I don't think that's allowable. I don't think that's possible.
It is unusual, and it would have to be through the school district. If they held an appropriate license, conceivably, someone could provide school psychologist services if hired by a school to perform that function virtually. I don't think we've seen it, but it's possible.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Is anyone?
No.
No. Is there a motion?
Motion to deny application.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, the next one is the next several are LPA applications. The first up is Bonnie Boshiers. She is the applicant, is in the audience, and I will bring her on the panel in just a moment to speak and respond to questions. Staff's opinion is that you should grant the license. Honestly, this is one that we got a little confused by the response of the committee, and so we just wanted to make sure the board blessed this. Ms. Boshiers holds 2 master's degrees. Neither one individually meets the requirements of the LPA, but together they meet all the requirements. And so this was taken to the application committee. Mr. Adler and others said what should happen is they should use 1 degree and then remediate the missing things. We think that means use the 2nd degree as remediation. We just wanted to make sure that's clear. We think as staff that it should be granted, but giving the board its judgment in this. And so welcome, Ms. Boshiers, if you want to unmute, and do you have anything to add to the board?
Yes, I actually typed up a letter, if that's okay, if I read it to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Good morning, members of the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Bonnie Boshiers, and I'm here to respectfully ask for your approval of my application for licensure as a licensed psychological associate in Texas. I have dedicated myself to meeting the standards and requirements set forth by this council. I hold 2 master's degrees in psychology from East Texas A&M University, with my most recent degree a 60-hour program, designated to align with licensure requirements. In the documents I provided, please note the email from the university's graduate programs manager, Amy Sims, which states that she pulled the courses back into my MS Psy audit, and it is now showing 100% complete. Courses are going to continue to fall off my audit as they reach the 6-year mark. The university does not maintain audits after the degree is awarded. I have provided the audit she references, as well as the audit I ran from my student account. My coursework has included psychological assessments, ethics, psychopathology, and research methods, and I successfully completed my clinical supervision and practicum and internship under licensed psychologists. Beyond my education, I have gained extensive hands-on experience. I served as a team lead for group therapy in the university clinic, mentored new clinicians, and assisted with orientation for incoming students. I also worked as a graduate assistant teacher of record for Introduction to Psychology, deepening my knowledge while supporting future psychology students. I believe these experiences have prepared me to practice competently and ethically as an LPA. My goal is to serve the people of Texas with integrity, professionalism, and compassion, contributing to the mental health field and supporting those in need. I respectfully ask the council to review my qualifications and grant approval for my licensure. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bashirs. Are there any questions or points for discussion?
There's no question about the practicum hours, right? It was just about all the
Correct.
coursework.
Yep.
I mean, by the way, our staff did such a beautiful job of like cross-referencing all the coursework in this one. So thank you, y'all, for doing that and showing us very clearly what belongs to which degree. And my gosh, Miss Boshiers, you have done so much coursework for this degree.
Yes.
I really appreciate that. I mean, I don't have any questions. This one's pretty clear for me.
I just need to mention something. I just got called about some emergency. I need to go. I apologize for leaving the board meeting at this time. May I be excused?
Yes, that works. I think we still have quorum. Yeah.
Thank you
Yes,
very
Dr.
much.
Singh.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask if Mr. Adler's recommendation is doable.
Yes, the board has the authority. You can absolutely consider
if Mr. Adler's recommendation is quote legal or appropriate or whatever,
Yes.
then I see no reason why not make a motion to approve, grant or whatever.
I second that motion.
Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Well,
Aye.
to grant.
Okay, all opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Boshiers, for appearing today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, the next one, and apologies, board, we know this is a long agenda. We had a lot of matters to bring before you. The next LPA application is Robin King. I do not see Ms. King in the audience, but if you are here, please raise your hand or your representative. This one is, again, has the correct degree, has the correct coursework, practicum experience, etc. The only issue here is that the practicum she was completing through Capella University was, while it was overseen by licensed psychologists in the program, they were not Texas psychologists, and the direct supervisor she was being supervised was an LPC. The program is, I believe it's APA accredited. It requires, it usually requires that, but it granted her the permission to be directly supervised by the LPC because of the rural setting of the practicum. And so, again, this is one where staff certainly defers to the judgment of the board, but the board has previously done a lot to try to encourage participation in rural communities and finding ways for this to work. So we thought it was probably appropriate to bring it to y'all and approve. But again, y'all are the psychologist. I am not.
So when she was given authorization, that was purely for the degree, is that right?
Yes, it was the
and
degree
not
program.
for, obviously he couldn't speak for licensure.
Correct.
Is there any further discussion?
I have a question, or I should say I'm seeking a clarification. So her direct supervisor was Lucas Day, and he's a Texas LPC. And I believe we require as Texas to be applicants with the LPC to be licensed psychologists. Am I correct? Do I have all of that?
A psychologist or a school psychologist.
He's not a licensed, not even an LPC supervisor. So that would make it easier, to consider, but even anybody who's trained in providing,
Assessments and things like that.
Yeah.
So for if we were talking about licensing for an LPC or LPC associate, there's not a requirement if they're in an internship in an academic institution that they have to be an LPC supervisor. The supervisor designation is specifically for licensure while they're an associate. So it wouldn't be, if, let's just say this person was applying for an LPC, the supervision under an LPC, I don't think would violate LPC
Well, yeah.
rules, if that's what you're asking.
I'm
Mr. Adler.
of like whether granting, like, whether or not it would, exclude her for those reasons, but for me, it's how I feel like, it would make it easier if that were the case.
Well, if it makes you feel any easier, if she is granted an LPA, she does have to be under supervision for a minimum of 3,000 hours of a licensed psychologist. So she would have to be,
Yeah.
supervised by a psychologist at some point.
So my frustration in this case is actually not with Ms. King, it's with Dr. Kuchar. Very much so. Because the accommodation was made for the educational program, and there was not any consideration given by a psychologist that is licensed in Illinois, Massachusetts, Minnesota, and New Hampshire for Texas licensing for their online student. And the rule is very clear that these hours needed to be supported by a licensed psychologist. And there was bandwidth within this program to provide that support to this rural student. It could have been done and it could have been accommodated. They have the bandwidth and the ability to do that for their students. And so that's where my frustration in this case comes in. And so once again, I think this board is being put in a very difficult place. And I have to give voice to that because I think it is very difficult for this student who is being guided by her academic program that this accommodation is being made for where she is practicing for an underserved population. And she thinks that because she is getting her degree, that she is going to be able to go and do and serve where she is set out to go and do and serve. And we are now stuck between the rock and the statuette place, right? Our statuette says a thing. And by statuette, we should be saying no to this application, but I really don't want to because she did all the right things.
And
So I'm mad.
And I will just to clarify, not to diminish the madness. It fully anger's justified. Because this is a LPA application, all of the requirements are set out by rule by the board, and so there's no statutory problem. You may certainly is not following in line with the requirements you have set as the board, and that is frustrating. But you have the authority in this case to exempt it.
Okay, so let me ask my LPAs here because you guys know I don't do the LPA thing very well.
Yes, we know.
I know you know. I know you know. Okay, so you've got this person in this program, and I've looked at the things that she said she was doing under supervision of an LPC. Is this appropriate to approve based on what this person was supervising her to do, knowing that she's going to be supervised again for those hours before, knowing that she has to be supervised for the hours in the next step? Is it appropriate? Did she get an appropriate education to approve her to move on?
My sense is probably, but my point in the LPC supervisor is that the person is not trained in supervision. It's not a matter of whether or not it matters, in a statutory way. And so I wonder, what kind of, supervision are we talking about here? I'm sure a lot of it does overlap, with, it might even some cases where the setting where you get the hours, but I think like, and it is a part, it is a requirement, I know she's going to be doing the 3,000 hours after, she passes the test and all that, but still there is a requirement, part of the eligibility for the license in the first place to be able to take the exam. So those are things that kind of like, don't easily line up for me, is that the person who supervised her was not trained in trained in supervision. Don't know kind of, do I believe it will be corrected and everything will be fine if given allowed to take the test? Yes, I do. But it does bother me, it does, that the situation is not, it's not an easy kind of course, but looking at long term and kind of looking at the qualifications, I would say yes.
At the risk of tiring all of you out from listening to me again, I would have concerns in this one about psychological testing, which under the purview of the skills and the job duties that a licensed psychological associate can perform in our state, she would be allowed with just an unrestricted license, but yet she has not been formally trained or properly trained. That would be my concern in this situation. And I wonder, to your point, Dr. Becker, I concur with you 100% because it really puts us in a very difficult situation should we move forward and grant this license, that other applicants would come before the council or come before the board and request a license, and yet have a similar situation in their supervisory requirement like this. How are we going to say no?
I also want to say, well, keep in mind as far as, the lack of psychological assessment, supervision in the practicum. It just depends on the setting really. And because it's, what is it, 350 hours be eligible for practicum for LPA? At least that's what it was when I was around.
6 semester credit hours.
Well, I mean, in terms of the number of actual practicum hours, not course, not the credit hours.
It used to be 450.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
And we switched to we measure it now by semester hours.
Okay. So, there's many settings where a person could get that practicum and not be exposed to a number of areas of possible practice as an LPA in the future. That concern, I think can also be corrected in as required for the LPC, for the LPA, 3,000 hours. So I just want to give that insight.
So what is your recommendation on action for this, Mr. Adler? Because I think from my perspective, I kind of have to lean on my LPA associates here a little bit on what is our corrective action here? What should we be leaning towards? Because I could go either way on this one. My frustration lies with the educational program, but knowing that, I'm not entirely sold on what to do about the person who is presenting their sort of deficient license to us.
In terms of possible remediation, anything like, is there anything that's possible?
Yes. Just thinking about the applicant that from Iran and Spain that finished in a similar way, the educational component was not correctly supervised, and thus you could not determine whether it was effectively training. What you did there was move those hours forward into the postdoctoral experience. You could do a similar, if the tradition is 450 hours, you could require that on top of the 3,000 hours. maybe we could enter an agreement.
I
with her.
motion to, for that solution.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Just real quick, are we creating a market for this avenue by doing it this way? And I'm not as familiar as you all are on this, but just from an economic standpoint, will the educational institutions correct their course, do we believe, if this is allowable?
That's an excellent point. I do think outside of this motion, we probably ought to send Dr. Kuchar a letter and let him know that for the state of Texas, having an LPC supervise an LPA is not our standard of practice and doesn't meet our rule for licensure.
Yeah, basically, like if they're aware of what, it would be helpful to think about it also in terms of will this allow this person to be licensed? Because I'm sure that's what it says in their, program description. It will allow you this licensure, right? By that decision, it didn't really. So to think about every exception that's made in these situations, in terms of possible licensure after graduation, is that consistent? I think so that should be the guiding objective.
Functionally, do we need to amend the motion, or would that just be direction to staff?
Just direction to staff.
Okay.
Does that meet your concern?
It does. And I want to support also this person going, because I know that's an underserved community and working out there is very, very important. So I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the future too.
Mr. Chair, I know a motion and second is on the table, and I particularly hate to interrupt parliamentary procedure. We do have a hand up in the audience. I don't believe M. Ramirez, if you are not either Ms. King or Ms. King's representative, could you please lower your hand? Okay, thank you. I always appreciate folks in the audience getting engaged and wanting to raise their hand and speak, but it's not an appropriate time, unfortunately. Oh, that was our staff. Sorry, Mari. If you were wanting to add, if there's something to add to the conversation, go ahead and put your hand back up. I think she's good. I scared her off. She says she's good. Apologies.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. There was no further discussion. All those in favor, pass the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
All right, thank you, board. Mr. Chair, the next LPA, two more to go. LPA application is from Nicole Webb. Ms. Webb is, or was, yes. Well, now I see Dr. Webb in the audience. I also see
she has
Shepherd.
legal representation by
Thank you.
Mr.
So
Shepherd.
just as I bring both of them on, just as a way of summary, Webb previously applied for the psychology license. At the last board meeting, that application did not meet the requirements, statutory requirements, and therefore had to be denied. The board directed us to do a sort of back of the napkin. Could Webb get an LPA license? We did that and let her know that she was short coursework and hours in practicum because of the nature of our rules require all of that to appear on one degree, and she has multiple degrees across graduate and bachelor programs, etc. Nevertheless, she applied. Ultimately, this is a hard one because it's doing what we call Frankensteining. It's pulling pieces from a bunch of different degrees to put together. And so fully defer to the board on whether this meets requirements or not. But first I will bring Mr. Shepard. I believe you're representing Dr. Webb. Would you like me to bring Dr. Webb on as well?
If you wouldn't mind, because if the board has questions that she's going to be better equipped to respond to, it would be more efficient.
Absolutely. So both of you are on, and Mr. Shepard, if you have a statement to make now, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Romeg, and thank you, board, for this time to speak before you on behalf of Dr. Webb. My name is Boyd Shepard. I'm an attorney, Texas licensed attorney here in Houston, Texas. And Dr. Webb has asked me to assist her with this process. We submitted a appeal request, and in that appeal request laid out or outlined her response to the board's notice of their decision that was dated on August the 21st, 2025. Basically, it's Dr. Webb's position and wants to discuss with the board that she does, in fact, across all of her education, have the education, training, and experience as required by 463.8 of the Texas Administrative Code, which also includes 6 semesters credit hours of practicum, internship, and other structured experience within the degree program. Our letter requesting the appeal responded to what was given to her and the reasons for your decision in the letter dated August 21st, 2025. With respect to having the word psychology within the name of the program, we contend that if you look at her transcript and you track her education and you look right on the transcript, it says for the TSU transcript, college, liberal arts, major psychology, and that the education listed there under in a psychology named program includes EDAS 781 internship in the fall of 2009 and the EDAS 782 internship 2 in the spring of 2010, and that each of these internships from TSU contained 3 semester credit hours for a total of 6 of practicum, internship, and other structured supervised experience. With respect to the reason that was given in the decision letter, the inclusion of a qualified course in research methodology and research design, Dr. Webb's PhD program at Walden University in academic psychology recognized and accepted 2 of her courses from TSU, including EPSY 831 Education to Statistics and PSY 631 Research Design, and that these contain the education and the content that would meet the criteria of the requirements. And then finally, I would also like to say that, I'm sorry. Well, basically that for the above reasons, Dr. Webb is asking the council to recognize each of these programs and find that she has the knowledge, skills, and practice to grant her appeal and application for licensure as a licensed psychological associate. And both her and I are available for additional questions.
Floor is open for questions or discussion.
Is this a situation where we have to do the Frankenstein thing? Pick and choose what we need to have and come up with a list of acceptable courses, practicums, experiences that are necessary?
So we have staff have looked through that, and it is y'all as a board simply have to you have to do 2 things. One, you have to decide it is acceptable to use multiple degrees to meet the requirements, which does not always. In Ms. Bashir's case, it was a very straightforward 2 psychology master's degrees. This is a little bit more complicated, and so you have to be comfortable pulling from multiple programs. The other thing is, I believe the internships, while meeting the credit hours, I could be wrong, and Dr. Webb can correct me. I don't believe they were within the degree program, although they were associated with an education, the institution. So that doesn't technically meet the requirements, but again, the board can deem it to have been sufficient. So it's really the form, not the substance.
We've been given several mandates by the governor and I guess by the people of Texas that we need more help. We got rising rates of everything going up. And so I'm not in favor of watering down our requirements to practice and to be professionals. But I guess I'm saying we need to be creative. And if we've done this piecemeal with another person, we need to be creative and give this person a chance if we feel she's qualified.
I think therein lies the challenge. If I'm looking at this application correctly, even piecemealing this, what I'm seeing is that the basic requirements are not all there. Even piecemealing multiple programs together, we're still missing 3 required foundational courses: biological bases of behavior, behavior management, and consultation. Is that accurate?
So
Make sure, I think, Dr. Webb, you may be able to address that directly.
Yes, I'm not, it seems like she may be looking at the first copy of the letter, the ones that was in the letter that I received on August 21st. It was the research courses. And those are the courses that I took at the master's level, and they were accepted within my PhD program. So they're not actually missing. And those courses are also psychology. They were psychology courses.
So for Frankensteining, obviously, I think we all know what that means. And if everything is, we look for whatever's required amongst all the experience and all the academic credits, does she are all qualifications met? Somewhere in there?
I do have something for us to consider in looking at the information submitted in terms of research design and some other, well, what is missing aside from the practicum and some of that are the research courses. And because this applicant's degree at the master's level, if I'm correct, was an educational degree. So let's see here. I'm looking at the information that was provided. She does have, so a counseling sort of course, counseling course 733 is seminar and social cultural studies, counseling course 593, human growth and development. But really the issue for me is a lot of the courses that are being used have educational prefixes. For example, to meet this requirement for us. And so one of them, for example, is theories and approaches to teaching in special ed. Foundations of education is another course in organization and operation of school, which is fine because that's applicable. There was another one that I was looking at. Research and statistics is research design, and it's educational. Research design is one course, and that's fine. It's got a PSY prefix, but educational statistics is different than, than psychological statistics. Well, I don't know. I think you'd have to look at an analysis, substantive analysis of the course itself to determine whether there is any significant difference there. So it's just kind of something for consideration.
So from staff's point of view, is there a way to approve this without any remediation? Is there an argument that can be made for that?
If the board accepts bringing in courses, all the courses that Dr. Webb has listed from the various degree programs she has taken, yes, there is something to meet each requirement. To Dr. Lamont's point, they are not necessarily from the typically expected graduate program in psychology, and therefore, but if you are comfortable with them, then yes, you may.
Yeah.
Hold on. Now I'm coming back to this. So now I'm looking at the right pages. We have educational requirements from 3 different schools, one of which is a program that we established at the beginning of this meeting is a non-licensing program. And then the internship is more than 15 years old. This is very confusing.
And Dr. Bader has 4 programs, just so you know.
Oh, 4. Sorry.
Yeah.
I can't count either.
And this goes back, even before Daryl was executive director of the psychology board. So that's.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Attorney Shepard has raised his hand.
Yes. Yeah. Can we go ahead?
Yes.
Is he
Mr. Shepard?
Mr. Shepard, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Just 2 points for consideration based on what I'm hearing the board discuss, which I appreciate. One is under the statute and the board rules 463.8 subsection F. I believe it applies notwithstanding subsection B2 of this section, a person who began a graduate program before August 31st, 2019, leading to a degree in psychology that otherwise meets the requirements of subsection A1 shall be considered to have met the requirements of subsection B2, as long as they have 42 semester credit hours, which Dr. Webb does. And then additionally, under G3, the council, in the case of the council approving a petition under the subsection, the council may condition the approval on reasonable terms and conditions designed to ensure the applicant's education, training, and experience provide reasonable assurance that they have knowledge and skills necessary for practice as a licensed psychological associate. I bring that out only to point out that if the board feels that there's any deficiencies, but if they were to approve, they can condition that approval on, and I know you know this, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm just wanting to bring out that there's room for creativity here.
I want to ask a real basic question. Thank you so much, Mr. Shepard, for that. In terms of the PhD being from Walden University, being in academic psychology, and this is not an accredited program, correct?
Oh, I believe Walden is.
Walden is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's not APA accredited, but it is accredited.
But it is accredited.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Then my question does not apply.
Yeah, regionally.
Yeah, they're a regionally accredited university. I think they may even be APA accredited. Some of their doctoral programs may be APA accredited, but
or they're seeking it right now.
Yeah, but it's a master's level program. She may have come out of an APA accredited doctoral program at Walden.
Okay, so is there any further discussion or motions?
We feel like we can actually make a motion at this time because I think based on the complexity of the situation, I don't know, it's hard to do this right now.
So just to tell you what staff has looked at in case it sparks any bright ideas from y'all. We have looked at all of these programs, and what we certainly recognizing that if the nature of the licensure requirements are to ensure that a licensee has gained particularized educational experience, then this candidate certainly has a graduate level, an appropriate graduate level course in every individual requirement area, with potentially the exception that Dr. Lambden identified in terms of the research courses, in that they came from an educational degree background. I'm not familiar enough to tell you. Y'all would have to decide if that's an insufficient. It is certainly still a graduate course in research. To the extent the licensure requirements are designed to ensure that the individual gets a holistic experience that comes out with a graduate degree that was designed to train them to be licensed to provide services, I think that is probably where the concerns lay, because this is pulling from multiple programs. Dr. Webb did not have a holistic approach. At the same time, as Mr. Andoni said, Zagros said, sometimes creativity is warranted to ensure folks that can provide services come in. I guess I would encourage the board to, what we could not say as staff is, y'all's role is to decide, is there a particular aspect that is missing, that whether that be a knowledge component or a supervised experience component. And if there is, can that be made up for in some way, or is it too deficient to make up for?
I also want to say, this is unprecedented, correct? We've never even seen anything like. Is that true?
We don't typically have folks with this many varied degree experiences.
It is we're trying as hard as we can, and it just takes some really careful thought because we've never had to make a call such as this before. One thing that concerns me is the degree academic psychology. But I also agree with you, Robert, that, has she fulfilled, can we trust her to, to be able to take the test and go under LPA supervision?
Can I ask for a second, Dr. Webb? I'm looking at all of this and I'm trying to sort through it and get a timeline in my head, which is very challenging through all of this. I'm looking at this and you've got degree and degree and degree and degree. And I see very little practical experience here. Do you have practicum hours?
Yes, I have. You mean practical experience as in on my transcript, or practical experience as in
as in licensed supervised work? Have you been under supervision?
Yes. Yes, I have a practicum for my master's program, the internship for my LSSP license, and then I also did a 1800 postdoc with under a licensed psychologist.
So you have a license, an LSSP license?
Yes, I have an LSSP license.
So may I ask what you want an LPA for?
Because I would like to practice outside of the school setting as an LPA.
You know, it brings up the question for me at least. Are you employed currently as a school psychologist?
I'm not employed currently as a school psychologist.
If
I'm in private practice as a LPC.
And my apologies, board. That is information we didn't include in the packet, and that's an oversight on my part that Dr. Webb does hold an LSSP and a LPC license.
Right. No, you did actually, because I have here that she does have an LSSP since 2011. She has an LPC since 2006, and she has an LPC supervisor since 2008. So that was embedded in the information. No, it's okay. You know, here's my thought about this one. Just to verify, and sorry, so the practicum that would be theoretically used would be the information, the hours in practicum that were accrued under an LSSP, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I'm going to make a motion, and I hear all sorts of different things here. This one, I think, my apologies, you have a lot of education and my hat goes off to you. However, I think it is problematic, the complexity and the breadth of that education for our purposes, and in the sense that it really kind of stretches the ability to Frankenstein, you know, for our purposes, and ascertain competency. And so I'm going to make a motion to deny. I'm sorry.
I'm not ready to second that. I don't know what anybody else feels, but I wanted to ask, is it okay if I ask a question before?
Wait for if there is a second or not, because there can still be discussion, but we need to.
I'm going to second the motion, but I'll hear what Mr. Adler has to say.
LPC, LSSP, you know, there's, you know, LPC to, you know, practice out of the school. And so this is kind of a harder one to grant. What would change in terms of, you know, I'm guessing in terms of what you want to do, what she wants to do with an LPA?
What would change? Are you that's directed towards me? Or was that a comment?
Yeah, let me, Mr. Adler, who would you, are you asking what she wants to do, or would you like staff to respond to the difference?
Hey, Herman, can you turn your mic on?
I wasn't sure if she could answer based on, you know, the procedure. She can, I'd like her to, but otherwise I was just, you know, talking to the board and the staff.
If the chair would allow a response, yes.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Webb, if you want to respond to that.
Okay. The reason that I was seeking an LPA is just to be able to provide psychological testing outside of the educational setting. And I think it would just basically improve the work that I do with the clients that I already currently see. I thought that the information, the training, and the experience that I had would make me eligible for it. So I took a chance to apply for the license.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor currently. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Okay. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Is there any abstaining? Think
5-2.
5-2.
Carries.
Okay, 5-2, motion carries.
Thank you, Dr. Webb, and thank you, Mr. Shepard, for appearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and board, last but not least, LPA application from Corina Weir, who is also appearing virtually. In this instance, the sort of fits in between, I guess, the Boshears case and the Webb case. Has multiple degrees, and particularly the practicum occurred before the degree or what she's wanting to use as practicum occurred before the degree programs, I believe. But I'll bring, oh, sorry. All right, I'll bring Ms. Weir on, and if you'd like to address the board.
Good afternoon, board. Can I ask if everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for your time. I know I have the unlucky last slot, so I will try to make this succinct, concise, and give you the information that you need. But thank you all for your time in considering what I know is a more complex application. And I hope I can give some clarity to that to give you a kind of overview of how my training has worked. As you'll see, I trained in the UK, in Scotland in particular. I moved to Texas a few years ago, and I will now be working and living in Texas. My children were born here. I'm in Houston. So this is now why I'm applying for this application. The way that it works in the UK, there are a couple of different routes to become what we call a registered psychologist, which is essentially a licensed psychologist. And the path that I undertook is I completed my undergraduate degree, I worked for a couple of years, then I undertook my master's degree in 2014 to 2015 at the University of Stirling, and then I undertook what we call the British Psychological Society Stage 2 programme to become a health psychologist. So I had my master's degree first, and then I did this Stage 2 programme. And what that Stage 2 programme involves is it's 2 years of supervised practice. It is the equivalent of a doctoral programme, however, it is not under a university. The British Psychological Society in the UK is essentially a training and learning society for psychologists, and it's a professional membership body. It is an education and training organisation that meets the approved programme requirements for the Health and Care Professions Council, the HCPC. And the HCPC are the body in the UK, similar to you as a board, who essentially then say we meet the criteria to be a practitioner psychologist, to be a registered practitioner psychologist, and to work as a psychologist in the UK. So I think this is where the complexity comes in my background, because the 2 years of supervised practice are not under a university, they're under a professional body, and they have a set programme in which you have to meet 5 proficiencies or 5 standards. One of those standards is research, another one is around consultancy, another one is around professional practice, where you have to work with patients, you have to be supervised by psychologists. So I think this is where the complexity comes in, because after the master's degree plus the 2 years of supervised practice, only after those 3 years are you then able to become a practitioner psychologist in the UK. You cannot be a practitioner psychologist in the UK with just your master's degree. You have to have some form of supervised practice that meets the criteria for the HCPC registration. So I think there's been some misunderstanding in my application, and I apologise. That was potentially on my behalf because it is a complex one. But I did the master's degree, the 2 year supervised practice, and only after that in 2018 did I receive my registration to work as a practitioner psychologist in the UK. I still maintain that registration to this day. I then decided I wanted to do a PhD, which I did part-time while still working as a practitioner psychologist. So I enjoy my academic work alongside my practitioner work. And that's where further complexity came in because I then went and completed a PhD and did that part-time and completed that last year. So that's almost kind of separate to my practitioner psychologist experience in education, but I wanted to put that in to show why I call myself a doctor so that people are not thinking I'm using the doctorate title without the PhD and the evidence behind that. But apologies again, because I think that more made the application complex rather than actually supported it there. I'm happy to provide any further clarification where needed, and I really hope the information that I've provided above highlights that I feel I meet the requirements for licensure as an LPA in Texas. I want to serve my local community. As I said, I've been here for a few years. We are staying here. I'm currently on a working visa, but I'm applying for my green card at the moment. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to serve my community. And I really want to thank you all again for your time and your consideration.
Dr. Rear, what do you want to be doing in our community?
Yeah, so I want to be working alongside psychologists and other practitioners. I really want to go back to being able to work directly with patients. I've not been able to do that in the US because I don't have the license. So that's really what I want to do. I don't see it as my full-time role. I enjoy, at the moment I do some consultancy work, which I like, but I don't directly work with patients. So that's what I really want to be able to do, is to go back to some of that patient work that I'm able to do in the UK.
Okay, are there any other questions or discussion?
I think I'm just curious with your background, why you're choosing to pursue an LPA license and not perhaps an LPC license, which is a counseling license. So I think I'm trying to understand, are you looking to go out and set up shop to do testing, to do counseling? Because sort of these equivalencies in the United States with the UK system, in many ways, you function more like a psychologist here. You have a sort of an academic PhD, perhaps, and I think the systems aren't equivalent. So I think you can function under a lot of our different licenses, perhaps with the equivalency. So I kind of would like to have a better understanding of what kind of shingle you want to hang out, so to speak, to go out there in the world of the public to really understand what you want to be doing.
I would like to also do testing. Yeah, I think that is a key point there. That's something that I did do in the UK within the National Health Service when I worked for that service. At the moment, a lot of my consultancy work is around neuropsychological testing. So that would be a component to it for sure. And I think another component to it would be doing direct kind of therapeutic patient work, which is what I also do formally in the UK.
So what types of remediation are we looking at?
So as far as staff's, I think concern was really just we didn't quite understand how this program rolled out. And so Dr. Weir, thank you. That was really helpful. I don't know that there was any particular experience or coursework that we thought was deficient that needs any remediation. It's really just getting the board's approval that this method of training is fine.
So I'm just looking at the concerns, the license concerns, sorry, the application concerns. And it lists really that, and we can talk about this and maybe you can correct me if I haven't, if I've missed something. It says the degree in psychology from a regionally accredited institution. And I realize this is a foreign degree, but is there a way to determine that, or is there a way to, is it regionally accredited? And
the NPC is regionally accredited.
Okay.
For her to be able to work in the NPC, it would be regionally accredited.
Okay, so that meets that. Provide documentation of at least 6 semester credit hours of practicum. And I think that's kind of what we were talking about with the hours being in the practicum and internship being between the master's and the doctorate level. It's just a different sort of a structure in that system, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, and then the last concern is the degree requirements. So a utilized degree utilized to meet the requirements must consist of at least 60 semester credit hours. And I know there was an evaluation, and I believe the one that this particular applicant holds is 48, if I'm correct.
It was a 48-hour PhD and a 45-hour master's. And so, once again, in the US, that might have been a singular PhD degree taken all together, but these were separate. And so
altogether, she does meet that requirement.
if you consider it together, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
more than
that really, in essence, is not a concern.
correct.
Okay.
Sorry, could I interject if that's appropriate at this point?
Sure.
Yeah, even if we were not to consider the PhD, which has confused things here when I added that in, my understanding is that from part 463.8F, notwithstanding B2 of this section, if a person had a graduate program before August the 31st, 2019, leading to a degree in psychology, the individual must complete 42 semester credit hours. And my master's degree was in 2014 to 2015. So even if we just take into account my master's, which is what I'm really asking, because I understand my PhD is academic, I meet that requirement simply on the master's prior to my 2-year supervised practice. So I just wanted to interject with that. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Weir, you get gold points for knowing the permutation rules. Well done.
Thank you.
Motion to approve this, and also probably encourage you to come back in a few years and move your license forward to a licensed psychologist, because my guess is that your criteria from the NPC also is going to meet the licensure for a full psychologist in our state with your academic degree, but that's not part of the motion. But I'm going to
I second.
motion to approve.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Weir.
Thank you so much, board. I appreciate it. You've made my day. So thank you so much, you all. Have a great one. Take care.
Thanks, Dr. Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, we've been at this 2.5 hours. Is everybody doing okay, or do we need like 10 minutes to? Yeah, I was asking also too for my behalf. Okay, we're gonna take 10 minutes. It is 12:29 right now. Let's just round up and say 12:40. We'll all be back here and get the call rolling again. And if
Okay.
okay, I guess, are we gonna pull the screen off of the intermission or?
Yep. McGregor, can you get this screens? They're still saying currently at intermission. Please stand by.
Perfect. Okay, time is now 12:45, so no business has been conducted while we were on break. We are now back in session. So moving on to the next portion of the agenda is going to be examination matters. So update from staff regarding the jurisprudence exam modules.
Yes. So as you know, we are developing a new jurisprudence examination, and the new exam will be like in a format of a course. And there will be 7 modules. And right now, 2 of the modules are built. So we're moving along pretty well with that. Just an update on our current jurisprudence examination. Since we changed the passage rate from 90 to 85%, we're having, we had roughly 949 individuals tested since the start of the year. So we have a 84.7% pass rate and a 6.8% pass rate. And within those changes, we work with the jurisprudence task force to look at our questions, and we changed 15 questions were updated and 4 were deleted. Our prior percentages from 2004, the pass rate was 34.8% and the failure rate was 66.1%. So lots of improvements. And that's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Moore.
You're
Um,
welcome.
Okay, is there any further questions or discussion on that portion? Okay. Seeing none, we are going to move down to enforcement matters.
And Mr. Chair, we don't have any cases that will require the board's review or action, just updated agreed orders for you to look at. Just if you're interested, because we hit the fiscal year, the BHAG as a whole closed 615 complaints last year. We received 811. So we have experienced an uptick. For psychology specifically, we received 116 complaints and we resolved 61.
Perfect. And just as a point for the record, just want to express my appreciation for all the work y'all do on that. I know that there is an uptick recently. I know we're addressing that, but I mean, you guys have been doing a great job. So just expressing my appreciation to the staff and everybody involved with working on those. Okay.
Do we have any sense what's driving the increase in complaints? I know I ask a difficult question, but
I mean, I think it started when Daryl hired me. So I don't, I can't say that it's necessarily my fault, but it could be. Yeah.
The short answer, Doc, is no, we don't. We don't really know. No, I remember back during the Me Too movement when it had first began, and we actually saw an uptick in complaints on sexual misconduct related stuff as a result of the Me Too movement. But I don't know what's going on now that would drive an additional 200 plus complaints over and above what we had actually estimated for. So 811 complaints, over 800 complaints is what we got. We were estimating 600. That's a significant departure from what we were planning on. So it's
Broadly, have y'all noticed any themes?
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Are they in particular buckets? Are we seeing a shift in types of complaints we're seeing or anything like that?
I haven't yet done the analysis to see on the types of complaints that are being received, kind of what categories they're coming in. One of the things I have noticed is the categories of complaints that are going to ISCs. There is a significant portion of them that are sexual misconduct. There is way more sexual misconduct than probably what I think the average person would assume occurs within the professions. Now, I don't want the public out there to say that I am suggesting everybody is a sexual deviant or anything, because on the whole, again, these professions are very well behaved. So you got to take what I say there with a grain of salt. But yeah, I was a little surprised to see the sheer volume of sexual misconduct complaints that were going to ISCs. But then again, a lot of the stuff that goes to ISCs is going to be the particularly nasty, difficult complaints. The easy stuff we're handling at the staff level. So you're only going to see the really ugly stuff go to ISC. I'm hoping to have that. We're going to try to do an analysis before the BHEC meeting on the 14th to try to get some idea, because I expect the council will have that exact same question.
My data-driven quality improvement brain just wants to do a little key driver diagram for you.
Okay. If there's no other discussion or questions on enforcement matters, next we are going to move to rulemaking. So there are going to be several rules that we're going to have discussion about on this. but I'll go ahead and let you guys kick it off.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. On item A, the adoption of rules, there were two rules that were proposed. One, 465.2 regarding supervision was adding the concept that if somebody you're supervising is coming up short, providers need to document that in some way, need to document and create a plan or remedial plan for what that supervisee needs to do in order to work through the supervised experience, so that if down the road you have concerns and you want the board to not count that supervised experience, we have some documentation of what occurred. We also added the idea that if somebody is being supervised and they get a complaint against them, they should probably share that complaint with the supervisor, because the supervisor may be themselves liable, and certainly the supervisor should be acting to help resolve those issues. The other proposed rule up for adoption was 465.34, which is harmonizing language across the boards to ensure all of our licensees effectively coordinate with each other when they are seeing the same patient. It doesn't place any strong burdens, but just requires you to attempt to notify each other and coordinate so that there's no surprises or conflicts, or at least we can avoid that as much as possible. We received a few public comments to these rules. Those comments are in your folder. There were none against. So, Mr. Chair, we are asking you as staff for the board to approve adoption of these two rule changes.
I do have a question about 465.34, and it says, if the client consents, is that going to be, does that need to be documented in a writing?
Ideally, in your notes, in some way, yeah, that would
Okay,
preserve
but not
the-
a dedicated just form. Just as long as it's in the notes. Client
no,
consented
just
to.
in your session notes. Yeah.
It'd be more of a best practices rather than part of the rule itself.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
we're not
yeah.
requiring you to send us consent.
It might be easier to identify if you have a separate form. Just kind of a thought there. May I comment on one of the public comments on 465.2? This was by a licensed psychologist, Martha Bergen, and she, provides her support for the adoption of the rule. However, she does say that there's some things that it would be good for us to consider, such as advising a length of time that the materials should be maintained and by whom. Would it be at the training site or kept by the supervisor even after leaving that clinic? In other words, how would these records follow the supervisee? Also, remediation documents being sent to a future training site. That would be helpful if they were sent to a future training site rather than, relying on perhaps the supervisee to transfer those records. So I don't know if we want to consider kind of, making this a little bit more robust to address those concerns. I don't know how everybody else feels.
I will certainly note for the board, we do not currently have requirements regarding how long to keep supervision records as a whole. That's certainly something the board can direct us to explore. And in terms of the remediation documents themselves, I think without specifying otherwise, we would assume that any of those documentations of supervision follow all the other records that are created related to that individual. And so if all the rest of the records are kept by the training program and not the supervisor, we would assume that they'd be kept similarly. We're not adding any specifications there. I know there was one comment not necessarily for this board, but for another, asking about, well, if they did a remediation plan and it's successful and everything is fine, and then the person decides to move on to another program, do I have to send that remediation plan when it's no longer in effect? And I don't think that's the intention of the rule. If somebody is finished and completed everything and there's no more concerns and that is an old document, we're talking about current living documents need to be shared with new supervisors. So certainly we would ask for adoption of the rule at the time, but absolutely open to direction to explore enhancing this down the road.
Is there any? Oh.
Hmm.
Is there any other discussion or motions on the floor?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Motion to adopt 465.2.
And 465.34?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
It's the coordination with each other.
The consent.
There were questions about documentation on that one, but I don't know that documentation is in the rule.
No, for the psychology rule already basically had this language. We're just mirroring the language. So to the public comment question about what changes, nothing's really changing in terms of expectations. Just, again, if you find out your client is seeing another provider.
Right, you're supposed to work towards collaborating, but there was public comment about documenting the collaboration with the other provider, but that's not in the rule,
Not
right?
Correct.
Okay. I was very confused. Okay, got it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Motion's still on the floor. Any other discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor of the passage of 465.2 and 465.34, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next is the proposal of rules, which we have several for, so.
Absolutely. And Dr. Lehman will take those comments for moving forward and looking at enhancing those. The proposed rules you have, by and large, relate to statutory changes that came down from the legislature. The exception is with the first one, 463.8. While there's one change in it related to changing the name of school psychology from LSSP to LSP. We'll talk about that in a minute. The other substantive change in that rule is to address some of those applications that came before you today. Currently, the LPA rule allows for bringing in 12 graduate hours from another graduate program if you have an old degree that was prior to 2017 and was less than the required 48 hours. The rule does not allow anyone with more than 48 hours to bring in 12 hours. And we felt this seemed like a strange limitation for someone who's got a qualifying master's degree but is just short and could make up the requirements at a graduate institution. And so the proposal that we bring to you is essentially to take care of those folks who are just short and need to bring in a coursework or an internship from a graduate university in psychology. It would still have to meet those standards, but be able to make up that missing coursework and not have to go back and get an entirely new degree.
The impetus for this was from applications, right?
Correct. And
Yeah.
and the fact that we do this with school psychology applications already and across several of our other licenses at BHEC.
Yeah.
And as you saw from today, we have candidates who we regularly do allow this at an individual level. So we didn't want to go too far. So we thought the 12 hours that already existed in the rule was an appropriate first step to expand to any applicant. The other, you will see in that proposal, at the end of the rule, we are eliminating the remediation language. That's simply because it's now in the broader BHEC rule. It's just duplicate language. We're not removing that as a concept. It's just getting rid of duplicate language. The other proposed rules, including 463.8, 463.9, 463.11, skipping one, 463.30, 465.1, 465.2, 465.21, and 465.38. All of those are responding to the legislative bill that was passed that changes the term licensed specialist in school psychology to school psychologist. You will have received in your packet a letter, or by email, a letter from Chair Bunton's office. She carried the bill that passed. The current proposals you have in front of you change the terminology to be licensed school psychologist because that is what all licenses at BHEC are named. They're licensed something. There's some concerns from her office about using that title because the statute, just as the public commenter at the beginning, the statute uses the phrase school psychologist. It does not have the term licensed. At this time, we would ask the board to still go ahead and propose the rules as written here, with the intention to let us as staff work with Chair Bunton's office and explore where is it appropriate to not use that word licensed so that it is clear folks can call themselves school psychologists. The use of that term in the rule is simply to distinguish licensed professional activity from somebody at a party calling themselves a school psychologist and they're lying to get a date. We don't regulate that. So there may be needed some non-substantive changes down the road, but we would ask that y'all go ahead and propose these now. The other two, and happy to answer questions on that in a moment. The other two rules, just so you know, 463.20 is the legislature changed the requirements for granting licenses to folks with military service backgrounds. And it's no longer uses the term substantially equivalent language. It's now about whether the person has a license in a state with a similar scope. So we're getting rid of old language that the statute doesn't have anymore. And 465.18 is related to forensic services, adds some training requirements to be a child custody evaluator based on legislation that added those requirements. So with that, Mr. Chair, happy to talk through any of these rules that you have questions on, but those are the reasons we brought them.
Mr. Chair, if I may take just a moment, just kind of follow up on what Mr. Romig said. I want to be clear for the public's edification, for the board's edification, that we received the letter from Chairman Button's office yesterday. And so one of the reasons, as Mr. Romig said, why we are asking y'all to go ahead and propose the rules as they are currently written in the board packet, what the public is seeing, in other words, that is what we're asking you to go ahead and propose, is because we simply have not had time to go in and redraft the proposed rules. I did not want to rush that last night. and risk having some sort of a typo or some sort of mistake where we all end up looking inept or, just making silly mistakes in the rule change. We're not in a rush. This is simply proposing it and making the changes that Chairman Button has requested are changes that can be made on the adoption end. And those are changes we intend to make as the chairman has requested. They are non-substantive changes. So we didn't want to rush it and risk running something through the system that ends up, that's wrong. It's got a typo or something like that in it. But I also want to make clear, just based on some of the public comments we heard this morning and kind of the chairman's letter, and so there may be some misunderstanding floating around out there. BHEC had made regulatory changes back in 2023, allowing LSSPs to use the title of school psychologist. That is something we had done well in advance of this statutory change. So this change actually codifies, we were ahead of the curve. This change codifies something that we had already done under our own regulatory authority. And I want to make clear, I want the public and all the school psychologists out there, all the LPs that are the licensed psychologists and the school psychologists out there, I want everybody to understand, if you are a practicing school psychologist, you can use the title right now, regardless of this change, right now, you can use the title licensed school psychologist, you can use the title school psychologist, or you could use LSP. Those are the three titles or just the three names that are fine. Nobody's going to come after you. You're not going to prosecute complaints if you use any one of those. You're not required to use anyone in particular, but you got those three options to pick from. I just want to make crystal clear so that I'm not having to field umpteen questions from people. Right now, as of right now, September, the 18th, 2025, you can use the title school psychologist. You can use the title licensed school psychologist. You can use LSP if you want to.
But not psychologist.
But not psychologist. That's the term for the doctoral level profession. So, but I just want to make that point very clear. And so that we're not having to field silly questions going forward about, well, can I use this or that there? I've answered all those questions. So everybody needs to refer this, when you watch this video, refer it to your friends and colleagues so that they know. But anyway, just so that I just wanted to get that on the record.
Daryl, at one point, you couldn't, NCS, National Council of School Psychologists, said you couldn't call yourself a school psychologist unless your degree said school psychology on it.
Correct.
And so I'm wondering if we allow Chairman Button's letter or her initiative to carry, then we're going to be violating NCSW?
No, sir. No, that was an issue that had occurred, way back under Psych Board, where we sought an AG opinion on whether or not allowing an LSSP to use the title of NCSP violated our use of title rules. And the AG opined that it did not. And so we began allowing LSSPs to use the abbreviation NCSP, Nationally Certified School Psychologist, on their signature blocks, because it was a certification that they had received. It wasn't a licensure title. So the AG had opined that, and then we began allowing it. And then, of course, we have evolved into where we are now with BHEC adopted the regulatory changes in 23 that allowed use of the title school psychologist. And now it's been codified in statute now. So.
Is there any further discussion or questions?
Mr. Chair, if I can add one additional thing for the Rule 46538, staff was going to recommend one minor change to what you have in there. In subsection D, there's language struck that says, or the individual may use the title school psychologist. And so we would recommend not striking that language, so propose it without that being struck. So that makes it clear you can use the title licensed school psychologist, or you can use the title school psychologist.
We want to go ahead and propose that change now. The remainder of the changes that will need to be done to conform to Representative Button's request, we'll do that on the back end with the adopted changes.
So we need to make a motion to pass 46538 with unstriking the section D.
It
Just
would be
so
the third,
proposed.
it'd be the third line,
In section D.
in section D, correct? So everything else, so more specialist in school psychology, LSSP, those would be the strikes. And then we would be retaining, or the individual may use the title school psychologist.
Correct.
I did make the motion.
Oh, that is a motion.
So moved. So
Perfect.
I second that motion.
Can I ask, that's a motion just for 46538?
Correct.
So the motion is on 46538. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting with the proposed changes, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. So that was for 46538, and then we'll take the rest of them as a whole. So floor's
So
open.
here's my question. If we made that substantive change to 46538, we have to adopt the rest of them with an additive change?
No, the only reason we had proposed striking, I can't speak for everybody, but the only reason I thought we'd strike that language is that, frankly, I thought it was obvious that if the rule said licensed school psychologist, that of course you could use the term school psychologist without that word license in front of it. Nowhere else in the rules is that relevant. So making that change is good so that people are clear, they can use that term. But the rest of the rules are really just referring to the license by its name for the purpose of the rules, not what people call it.
Okay. So which of these rules, without going into them, are they all LSSP rules, or are there other rules that are non-LSSP rules that we need to take separately? There's the military rule.
There's the military rule, the LPA 12-hour rule, and the child custody rule. Frankly, you don't really have a choice on the military rule or the child custody training. That's conforming to statute.
Okay, so that's 46311 and 465.2.
Sorry.
20.
46518.
So you are welcome to do all of these rules as a group.
Okay.
You
so
don't
we
have
can.
to separate them out.
Okay.
If you want to, I'm happy to provide the motions for you to do that, but you can take them all as a group.
Do we have anything else to discuss on these rules? Do we have concerns?
I don't.
I don't know that we do. Then I motion to move them forward as is.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to adopt. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Board. The remaining rulemaking item is a formal rule petition by Ms. Madres, I believe. And looking online, I do not see them in the audience. If the petitioner is in the audience, you're welcome to raise your hand if you want to address the board. Just in short, this is a rule petition wanting to specifically allow school psychology licensees to participate in supplemental special education services. We as staff recommend denial based of the petition based on the fact that they are already eligible to participate in the programs that are named as employees through the school districts. So they can participate in these programs. The rule petition would suggest that they could participate in those programs in a private setting outside the school district, which would be an expansion of scope of practice for a school psychologist outside the school district that the board has previously never gone for. And I don't know if statutorily they could, because the statute says it limited to school.
So I have concerns with this one, kind of to your point, Mr. Romig. So I was looking, and it says for the school year 2022 to 2023, according to the TEA, there's one school psychologist for every 2,617 students in Texas. And the National Association of School Psychologists recommends one school psychologist for every 500 students. So keeping those numbers in mind, that ratio in mind, as I peruse through the website for providers that are listed in the parent-directed special education services, these would be equine therapists, these would be occupational therapists, speech therapists, some counselors, et cetera, to augment services for children in the special education program receiving services. So my concern is if we adopted this rule and allowed school psychologists to also partake in that, my concern is they're already really spread very thin in their primary job, and this would be a secondary job for them. A lot of those providers are working in that capacity as their primary job. My thought is that it would really kind of be very difficult, and it would take away services really from the students that are being serviced in the school system now. That's my thought.
Mr. Chair, this, we're talking about the rule petition. The school psychology license, I think the individuals are already covered by the SSES program under TEA. If you look on TEA's website, they refer to it's called a PDSES program. It was formerly known as the SSES program. And when you look at the description of providers that are eligible to deliver services under that, they say anyone providing a type of therapy / service that is licensed in Texas must have a valid and active Texas license. Anyone providing a type of therapy service that is not licensed in Texas must have credentials, certifications, education, experience. My point being is, obviously the LSSP, it's going to take me a while to get out of that habit. School psychologists, they're licensed in Texas. So I think they already fall under the purviews of licensed providers or authorized providers under this program. So I'm not sure that a change is actually needed.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Would we allow that to lapse then without a vote or do we need to vote to?
You need to vote
Okay.
to deny.
To deny the request. Okay. So entertaining a motion.
Motion.
Is there a second?
To deny the request petition.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of denial, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I believe that covers the rulemaking portion. So moving on to recommendations for agenda items for the next meeting. One thing I forgot to mention in my initial comments, just as a point of information, is that Mr. Romig and myself will be attending ASPPB in St. Louis at the end of October. So we will report back on that at the January meeting, I believe, January or February, whenever the next meeting is. Additionally, and it was kind of alluded to, Mr. Romig and Chair Belamowitz and myself will be attending other states board meetings over the next few months. in relation to the Texas exam possibility. So we will also report back on that as we have any additional information. Does anybody have any agenda items that they need for the next meeting?
Mr. Chair, did you want to mention the possibility of a vice chair position?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So for the past few years, we have not had a vice chair position on this board. I and staff would like to re-implement that. We're not gonna, I don't want to do that today at the end of this meeting. I just want y'all to be thinking about it. We're still kind of fleshing out the details around it. But I would like to vote next meeting on a vice chair. I would also, entertain recommendations at that time for, anybody that wants to be nominated for vice chair. Like I said, we're still kind of fleshing out details around that. But that will be something that will be on the agenda next meeting. Other than that,
I'd like to suggest, and I don't know if this is something that the board can do, or if this is something that is in statute, but I would like to suggest that an additional public member of the commission be placed on the board.
Is that wanting an extra person on the psychology board as a public member, or sending a person to the council? I just want to make sure I understand what you're suggesting.
Having a person on the board, on the council, as a public member, because I think we have now, 3 members? 3 public members?
it's
correct.
It is 3 public members. Correct me
And
if I'm wrong.
I think with some of with the discussions that we take on, that it would be a good thing to have another public member, because we are largely staffed by psychologists with credentials. So I think it would be helpful to have another public member on the board.
I don't believe that's in our purview to.
Yeah, this is the law, right?
Well, that's why I was asking, is it statute or?
It's that.
No, I
It's
believe
in the
that's
law?
that.
Yeah, it is statutory. The
It is?
legislature change. Yeah. the
Most
provision.
regulatory boards, to my knowledge, or as far as I've seen, it's typically 3. It would be like 3 public members max on most boards, and it's made up of a mix of other people within the profession.
It
generally-
varies wildly across all of state agencies, and each state agency's enacting legislation specifies the number of board members, as well as what qualifications are required, and if they're slotted. So this, when BHEC was created, the legislature, when it created the boards, identified the positions, and so of course, the governor's office is the one that does the appointments. He can decide who to put in those positions, but his hands are tied by those legislative enactments. And so, to your point, that would be a conversation for the legislature, and I guess with the governor's appointment office.
Okay, that goes hard.
Okay.
Thank you.
If there's no further recommendation or discussion, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Without objection, we are adjourned at 1:26 p.m. on September 18th. Thank you to everybody from the public who participated. Thank you, board, for y'all's participation. I know this was a long one, so appreciate you guys.
Thank you.